I've been debating on whether or not I was going to make a video about Miss Muhammad and their situation, the stabbing. First of all, I'm from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, so I'm kind of aware of how people are there. And before, you people get on here talking about, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and she has 6 kids, and blah, blah, blah. For one, before I decided to record, I investigated. So keep that in mind. So I want to say first off that I do not condone her violence. I don't feel that that was justification. No one should be stabbed to death over any reason. But when I started looking into, her background and her Instagram and all the posts, on one of the posts that I saw, there was a woman who kids used to work at the same McDonald's, and the manager, used to bully them, and the mom just told him to quit, especially after the manager and her sister decided to bully the daughter. I guess they were going to fight the daughter. So, knowing that it wasn't her first rodeo with being a bully, I take that into account. What people don't understand with mental illness is they have a one-track mind depending on what her mental illness is, and I'm sure she has one or two or three. She says she's being bullied. The only way to stop bullying to them, as far as justice, is either homicide or suicide. And she picked one of the two evils, which was homicide. A lot of you haven't been in her shoes. You've probably never been bullied at work. You're probably the one doing the bully. I know how she feels. I feel sorry for her, because I was bullied at work. And I understand the thoughts. She didn't have anyone, like she doesn't have children or anything that I know of, that I'm aware of. But like myself, I have children, so I kind of took that into account when I was being bullied. I did fear for my safety. The supervisor didn't have a camera on his bus, so I feared one day he would, he already pulled over and exposed himself to me. So my worst fear was he pull over and rape me somewhere, and it's my word against his. So I understand how the bullying goes, and when you're backed in a corner. The only difference with me is I've had people I've talked to, I have my children, and I have God. And when I got in my Uber and had a complete meltdown, instead of going home and taking a knife to work the next day, which I was going to do, I rerouted my ride from home to the hospital. Call my daughter and say, hey, I'm going to the hospital. This is what's going on. I need to talk to somebody because I don't want to go to work the next day. So at the hospital, I told the nurse and the doctor how I felt, how I came to the hospital because I want help so I didn't have to go to work the next day because I was going to take a knife. I was ready to defend myself, and that's what I felt. I need to defend myself. So I ended up getting Baker acted, which I wish she would have told someone so she could have got Baker acted, and it would have saved the woman's life. And maybe she'd have had a second chance on eventually finding another job like I did. But unless you've been in her shoes, and again, I'm not saying what she did was justified, but I understand. I understand when you're backed in the corner and how other people, they're just make it seem like, oh, well, she should have found another job. That does sound easy, doesn't it? But it's not. When I was in my situation, I was trying to find a job. Couldn't find one. But I couldn't leave the job because I just got a car note. So last thing I want to do is quit and lose my car. So she's trying to save up. She's trying to do other things. And she's being bullied by this manager. And, like one of her videos said, the manager was talking about taking her belt off. Who you going to put your hands on? Who you going to hit with a belt? You have 6 kids. You don't need to be bullying nobody at work. You don't need to be beating on them at work. For her to tell her, oh, she, blacked out and pulled a gun on one of her kids. Now, let's talk about that. First off, when you black out, you don't remember doing things like that. And if she loved her kids and she did black out and that happened, the last thing I'm going to do is brag about it. Nobody needs to know I was about to kill my kid. So if I'm told that, as far as I'm concerned, hey, you could pull a gun on your own kids, you can do the same to me. Got to remember where her mental is. And I'm probably more there than she was or is. So the first thing I would think is, she's trying to intimidate me. She's trying to scare me. You just have to watch you need to watch. Just be careful who you talk to, how you talk to people. Everybody needs to be that way. Period. And I saw the video with the kids crying, and I was trying to piece it all together. Just listening, and it seemed like the things that the girl was saying, she was told to say. And it may have been the same auntie who was at McDonald's fooling when the manager needed her up there to threaten people. So I'm not taking sides. She did commit a crime. And of course she's going through the court system, and whatever time she get. But this is a lesson. Be careful who you mess with. God saved some people in my lives, including the ex-husband, because I have much things to do out here. Very much. Not only just my kids, my grandkids. I have a lot to live for. And even though she didn't have much, no kids, barely had a job, no car, she still has a lot to live for. She was trying to build for it. Just didn't have any help. Not much help. So I'm sure I may get backlash. You know what? It is what it is. I can't help that I'm unbiased. I see both sides. And almost having my bachelor in criminal justice and thinking about detective work. I had to investigate before I got on here. And at first I was going to let it go, but it's just too much. It's too much. Everybody is siding with the bully because she lost her life and left 6 kids behind. But she needed to realize, which is too late now, that you can't treat people any old kind of way and think God is going to protect you because you have kids here. Never know. Maybe God was protecting them kids from her. So we don't know the whole story. I know what I saw. I know what I read. And everybody picking on her because of all the wigs and everything. Until you understand mental illness, you would never understand her. You would hate her. You would want her to be, spend the rest of her life in prison. She needs help. She needs mental help. She needs help. Thank you for listening, and I will be replying if need be. And I'm most definitely waiting on the bullies so it could prove my point.